welcome to your weekly program, بالأحضان, a show with an accent for those without one. We've been hearing a lot of negative stories about Muslim, Islam, Syrian refugees now. We only have, I think, 10 families in Minnesota, and everybody is, up to arm about the direction it's going. So we have a great story about immigrants, about America. We have here, we have Lindsey Smith. She is a nurse practitioner. She just came back from Syrian refugee in Greece, and she's been helping them and helping them here. I met her at Welcome Syrian Refugees here in Northwest Islamic Center a few weeks back, and I said I should invite her here and continue the conversation. Welcome to بالأحضان.
Thank you.
Lindsey,
Thank you.
if I can call you Lindsey.
Yes, thank you.
This is really a story that you won't find on mainstream media. That's why we think of ourselves as alternative media. And all we hear about the Syrian refugees, about the threat of terrorism, ISIS, and all of this, we're talking about human being. We're talking about mother, daughter, son. Those people now, half of Syrians are out of their own country. I thought, to just decide to just go and I have to do something, and I have to go to actually, if they cannot come here, I'm going to go to them. This is a transformative decision. So take us through, how did you make to arrive at decisions? What are a nice girl doing there and messing with the Arabs over there in their camps?
Actually, I was traveling overseas and ended up in Turkey and Jordan and some surrounding countries, and it's absolutely impossible to ignore what's happening. There's refugees everywhere, and camps spread throughout the desert in Jordan, in the markets in Turkey. Like you said, half the population has been dispersed. So that was my first introduction, because you don't hear about it on the news.
It's
so
not
much.
like you've seen it on television. This is serious.
Yes, and so I remember a particular incident in a market in Turkey. There was a woman crying and screaming, and I didn't know what she was saying, but I could feel her pain. My friend said that she was saying she's from Syria and she lost her family and everything, and she was asking for help. And that just moved me to see that. When I came back, I ended up hearing about the Syrian American Medical Society, which is known as SAMS. They work in Syria as well as the surrounding countries, well organized here in the United States. And so I went to their annual conference in Florida and made some connections, and a couple weeks later I was on my way to Greece, and that's how it all began. So
all this, you're thinking about being a doctor, being a medical provider, and your job is to relieve the pain of your patient, and this is really beyond the call of duty. This is really relieving a different kind of pain. So tell us, when you go to the camp there in Greece, what's the immediate reaction, and what are the needs there on the ground?
So I've gone on 2 trips. The initial trip was right after the Macedonian-Greek border had closed. Military presence, they built a wall, very Trump-like.
Really? It's kind of fashion though, in Israel, build a wall. We should, once Trump gets to the White House, we'll build a wall.
Right. At this time, families were taking the route through Greece because that was the first port across the sea from Syria or Turkey, and then trying to connect with their families that were established mostly in Germany or surrounding countries. So they did build a wall, and about 70,000 refugees were stuck in Greece at that time. 30 to 35,000 were in a camp in the field right along the military border. And so we rented a van and we parked in the middle of the field and just did the best we could with whatever resources we had.
So who organized all of this?
SAMS, Syrian American.
So they have people there on the ground to help you out?
We were the first group. Yes. So.
You are the ground group.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, when you say 35,000, they are in a small island or whatever, will they live where? In tents?
Tents, yep.
So every family has a tent, or how that works?
Not everybody. So I think that they were donated. A lot of people had to sleep. There was a train, an old abandoned train, so people were living in cars. Some people were out not in a tent. The weather was transitioning because it was a spring, so we had really bad winds, pouring rain. I mean, there's mud everywhere. These people only had what they could carry. Food rationing, an apple, a banana, a piece of bread, and a bottle of water a day. They'd stand in 3-hour lines to get this. Conditions were awful. At this time, lice had started to spread, and you couldn't treat it because there's no way to kind of clean the environment. Hygiene issues, the mental stress, was...
the emotional, I can imagine the breakdown of a lot of families, emotional and all of that. I mean, how you treat that?
That's the most difficult, because you want to kind of come to an end result, but...
How about your resources that you have? Where do you get that resources?
So we had donations. Actually, people would bring suitcases full. I brought some medications myself. Medications were in Greek, German, multiple languages. It was pretty difficult to even know what you have.
What you need.
I call it jungle medicine.
And the work training there, I guess.
And dental issues, something simple like if you have a toothache, which is very painful, and
oh my goodness,
and there's no access, and but yes, I would say a lot of people with a lot of insomnia, trouble sleeping, just emotional stress. The riot police were often present at one
from Greece.
Yep, Macedonian army was on the other side with tanks, and at one point,
what afraid of what was tanks?
Well, people trying to cross the wall. 50% of the camp was children, 25% women, 25% men. At one point, they tear gassed the camp. They shot rubber bullets that were quite large, about the size of a golf ball. The families, some nights were very cold. They had nothing to burn, so they were burning plastic to stay warm. So then that caused respiratory issues for people that have asthma or plastic burns.
You haven't had any experience with working in this condition.
No.
So you kind of just work at sharpen your skill over there, and because as you say, there's different needs than your usual suburban patient that comes,
right.
But tell us about your relationship with the refugee, and how do they look at you?
That was one of the most impactful for me. I definitely earned more than I could have ever given. People were so kind. The Arab hospitality, which you guys are famous for, regardless that they had nothing, they were constantly trying to offer their food rations to make sure that I was okay so I could do the work. Yeah. Tea, they would bring us tea to the van, invite us in their tent, whatever they had. On multiple occasions, men would remove their shirts and offer them to me because I said, I like your T-shirt. Oh, you want?
They would just want to show their chest. Right. This is amazing that they actually, through all this stressful condition, they still have the emotional capacity to express gratitude. Yeah,
it was for me, that was the most impactful and something I'll never forget.
When you come back, and as I was talking to you before, when I go and visit Egypt, not that bad, and I know after the military coup, and there's a lot of horrible economy, and sometimes you go there and you cannot help anybody, and that emotional level, when I come back, it takes me a while until to really recover emotionally. Tell me about your re-entry when you come back. I mean, sometimes it's much harder.
Yeah, I think that the emotional processing will continue to occur for me because you come back and you're kind of in this state of shock because you just keep going, and you've seen so much, you've heard so many stories. I would say I definitely would go through a phase of depression and trouble sleeping at night, and you're online and you're checking with the families you met through WhatsApp apps or various, Facebook, and you're seeing what's happening in Syria, and you're hearing about more boats arriving with more people, and you meet other humanitarians, so you just can't really uninvolve yourself. But I think that's one of the most difficult for me, was leaving and not staying longer and having to go back to a normal work life, and my patients complaining about things that were very trivial in comparison. So I think that was the hardest, and wanting to be back.
How about your relationship, family, friends? They notice something about.
It's mixed. My mother's very supportive. I've had a lot of friends that have shown a lot of support. I've done speaking events, anything I can to get the word out, and I think there's been several that have been very supportive. And to be honest, there's several that haven't had much to say, or maybe had kind of a
don't want to say
ignorant
what they
perspective.
Yeah. I'm in Minnesota, and you're talking about only 5 million people live there. I mean, we have a lot of space and a lot of lakes and a lot of nice people. And what is missing out of the story of the refugees here?
They want to go home. They all want to go home. They want to go back to Syria, and they have a lot of love and pride for Syria. But until that's possible, they just want what you and I want, which is safety, a life for their family. Dignity, basic things. So they want to get back to working. They want to get back to their education. Their life has been on hold, many for years. Their ability to develop relationships. I mean, they're meeting people that are in and out with volunteers, and it's a very difficult place to be, I imagine, emotionally. I mean, they're kind of at a standstill until that they are placed somewhere so that they can continue. But then even then, we talked about families that come here, they're given 90 days of support through a charity, and then they're kind of on their own. So now you've got to learn the language, you have to immerse into the culture, figure your way around. I mean, even getting a driver's license in a foreign country in a foreign language, I can't imagine the hurdles. So unfortunately, even then, the journey is still quite far for them to get to normalcy.
For anybody who wants to get involved, not necessarily want to go as far as you've done, go to the camp, but they want to help in Minnesota. Where do they go? What should they do?
So I know, obviously, you can donate, but not everybody's able to do that. The Northwest Islamic Center recently had an event where they, first of all, welcome families. Also had an event where they had donations of clothes. We bagged it, and then they were going to ship it out for help for winter clothes. CISPOS is another organization. All these you could find on Google. We often do different things, so fundraisers, welcoming events, even some protests and things that are happening in Syria. So
no, there is one as we speak now, 1 o'clock. But last night I invited you to meet another doctor that he went to Greece and helping and working with the refugee, Dr. Dave Dvorak, and he not just doing that. But also, he's a singer and songwriter. So he producing a CD about his experience with the refugees and things he cannot measure. I think that's the title of the CD. And he has a CD release party this coming Thursday. I know it's going to be very cold.
I'll be there.
Yeah, actually you'll be there. But you met him and talked to him today. You guys, did you compare notes?
Yeah, and unfortunately I can't sing, so.
Yeah, I know, you can do more than sing.
But I think, part of being a humanitarian or part of the work that you do doesn't end at the camp. I think getting the word out, sharing your story, hoping to inspire others to somehow get involved or at least care on a political level. So I think, whether it's through singing or, blogs or anything you can do, and it's not about what you did or that you went. It's about the people, and so that was interesting to also share that perspective with him. He seems like a very interesting guy. So
it was amazing that those kind of model and role model of what we think of America, we don't see them in the media, and I always see those people who are angry and try to vent their frustration at they single out a group of people or region, but we need those type of stories to be out there. So I'm gonna be at that event on Thursday, and we continue this conversation. But when I was at the Northwest Islamic Center, the event where we first met, there was like a few kids there, and there was a young kid. I mean, I would say he's like 7, 8, and he was dressing this guy. I swear, it's the coolest kid I've ever seen.
I think I know who you're. Did he have the fedora hat on? Yes.
You know about this? I want to talk to this guy, and he ignored me big time. And he just doesn't want to. He just felt like that's what I'm going to make this evening look like for me. And then he walks around. And those are the stories. These are the people who are away from their family, from their familiar streets and school and backyard and playgrounds. And they are here, about 18 families. What is the threat? What is the scary? I just cannot wrap my head around the fear that people espouse on media. For the people out there, if anybody wants to help, we'll have the flash links and contacts about how you can help welcome the Syrian refugees. So once you said after 3 months, what does that mean? They are on their own.
Well, I know, for example, one family, they were placed more in a rural suburban area. It's a father that, because he doesn't speak English, is working at a fast food restaurant. He has an education, but with the language barrier, he's taking a bicycle, so now that winter's here, that'll be difficult. He's not on the bus line. He has to support his family, which obviously is something he wants to do, but I mean, you have to be given some help to kind of get established, and 3 months is,
transportation,
weather changes, community changes. I mean, they've left everything they know and their family, and this is not by choice. Nobody wants to come to America. It's not the big dream.
It's interesting that when you look at the refugee all over the world, only 5% actually leave their country. 5%, not that many.
No.
So most people want to stay home, and with familiar places and familiar experience. Well, Lindsey Smith, a nurse practitioner, she just came back from Greece, visiting Syrian refugees. This is her second trip, and she's telling her story. And the story is a story of how an individual take on himself and try to help in a crisis that everybody is ignoring and everybody is turning away from it. We really thank you so much for coming and telling the story. Good luck, and if there is anything we can do, please keep us in mind. And